Kink Live at the Bing Lounge, Old 97's. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. It's great to have you back in town. Listen, I wanted to play a little bit of catch up with y'all. It's rubbing off. Though the records have been released fairly consistently, and you've done solo projects, you, Red, and Murray. I don't know about these other two characters. Speak up now and let me know if you've done. So it's not like you haven't been making music, but you've been doing other things. I'm hearing maybe family things. We've
all procreated, yes.
Yeah. It seems to be a thing. People come to the Bing Lounge and say, man, we had a family in between now and then.
It's true. Our band will turn 18 this year.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Our band could be drafted
to go to war.
Just
it's graduating high school, and it was in its little rocker, batting a little stuffed bunny.
Yeah.
Just recently.
So I take it that things are going well, though. I mean, that you can get back out on the road, and all that kind of thing. What, by the way, before we get too far into our conversation, what's this about the scuffle I heard in the Fillmore on Saturday?
Oh, there was a
it
little
hit
bit of
the
a fight.
news.
These two guys, they
Not
thought
you
we
guys.
were Fugazi, and they just went for it.
No, it always happens the same way. Some goofball is roughing up some girl, another guy steps in, and they get into a little thing, and then security jumps on it, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, they stopped fighting. I explained to them we had a lot of great songs left to play, and they just...
And then a hush fell over the crowd.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Old 97's in my book, I hate to put, kind of like generalities on bands, but when you guys got going, everybody said, well, this is alternative country, and you kind of lived with that, but clearly you are a band that's got the songwriting thing and a love for punky pop and all kinds of stuff. Did that ever make you go, how do we get rid of that alt country thing? Or was that something that you went, no, we're from Dallas and we can carry that?
A little of both. When it started, I remember thinking that it was sort of insultingly reductive, well, maybe we are, certainly we are, some that, but we're not all that. As time has gone on, though, I mind it less and less. I'm proud to be considered sort of a forefather of whatever little movement that it was, and I mean we are certainly from Texas. That's the truth, and we love the classic American songwriting form, and so much of even the British music that we love goes back to them loving Buddy Holly and Hank Williams, and so I don't mind it as much as I used to at all.
And your new record certainly has that kind of, it's got a little bit of that Brit element in there somewhere. Yeah.
I wrote most of the songs on a tour. I went for a month with Steve Earle over to Scandinavia and Europe, and most of these songs I wrote in dressing rooms and theaters around Europe. So it's definitely, it's indigenous to that.
That's kind of an interesting visual. I mean, you kind of soak in the country by day, and then you're sitting in your room, your dressing room, and kind of channeling that, or what?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's we haven't gotten to go over to Europe as much as some of our contemporaries have. So for me, it was a lot of new experiences and new sensory input. And Steve Earle is a character. He's like a master class in songwriting, just following him around. So it was a really cool trip, and I brought it back with me ever since I got back about a year ago from that. I've been on a songwriting jag like I haven't in a decade.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit you guys could talk a little bit about how it matters where you record an album, because I know you've recorded all across the country, but you've done albums in Dallas for a reason.
Well, we have noticed rightly that, you're just more open in your home. There's things about being far away that kind of shake you up and get you to do things you wouldn't do because you're just out of your element, that kind of thing. But we tend to respond to our home in a way where we just kind of relax there. And for us, that's how we get good stuff out. We just, in a very relaxed state. It gets very creative in Texas, where we're from.
And you can bring friends in on a moment's notice.
No, we don't.
No, they ruin everything. We start showing off for them, and we can't play anymore.
Oh, your friends are instruments. Yeah. I before we get into talking about your new album, there's such a trend right now for this what I call kind of old timey music. The Avett Bros and Ray LaMontagne's last album, which was tremendous. And all the old instruments. And I kind of half expected to see a banjo on this stage.
Yeah.
Do you guys favor any of that stuff? I mean, do
We certainly like it. I mean, we like those instruments, and we've messed around with them a little bit. But something about the way our band is set up.
Speak up over here.
I don't know. Am I in the mix? Yeah, good. When we started the band, that was the kind of band we were going to be. And I can't really play accordion, but I can play enough. And Murray is about the same on the banjo. And we were going to be one of those bands, Avett Brother types, and we were going to be, change the world that way. And we lasted about 4 months, and said, these instruments suck. It's all about guitars and drums and just all that other stuff. All it does is bog things down. It slows down sound check. They break and out. And you know what? And those bands, if they're around in 18 years, I'll shake their hands. But they've got a long ways to go to be toting around accordions and banjos.
And those
all
big
the extra trips to
stand-up
the van, it's
it's
a catastrophe.
But does that ever make you go, wow, we ought to re-explore that? Because if you guys know that's no. He's saying no.
You know what? Studio's a whole different thing. I love getting banjos in the studios, like a good rollicking kind of bird song, something like that with banjo rolling through. It's a great sound. We've done that in the past. We'll do it. And we'll probably do it in the future too.
When we've talked about adding instruments and stuff, but we love what we do, and when we figured out how to do whatever this is, we do it, and we don't even have to think about it. It's very natural to us. So, we're not probably going to change at this point.
And it's pure. I'm not making go changing or anything. It was purely because we've seen a lot of that on this stage. Somebody's hauling out their stand-up bass, and I'm going, wow.
I've noticed it too, and I really love it. I think it's a good way for music to move in general. As it becomes easier to make music digitally, and people can make it more quickly, and there's a disingenuity. There's like a level of falseness when it's all sort of computer processed. But so for somebody to stand there and to see the Avets do it with, they could do it with no mics. They could just stand there and yell and holler and play banjo, and that is a beautiful thing. That's something organic and natural that I love.
And so let's talk about this new album, Grand Theater Volume 1. What a great record. Thanks. And you wrote so much music, it sounds like Volume 2 is right around the corner.
Yeah, they're talking about May or early June for Volume 2.
Really? Yeah, and we're getting, and this first song, title tune that we heard, right?
The Grand Theater, which I wrote in Leeds at the Grand Theater.
Wow, so there's a story behind that. I love it.
Well, and something occurred to me when I was over there. They pronounce it theater, and in Texas, when I grew up, a lot of people would pronounce it theater. Normally the people I hang around with now say theater, like an American would. But I saw it as this sort of strange overlap of cultures where, London and Austin sort of merge. And I saw that as sort of a theme for the whole record. It's this like big bridge that goes from Texas over to the UK.
Did you guys record this album in Dallas?
We did all the pre-production in Dallas at a 100-year-old theater called the Sons of Herman Hall that we really love. And then we took it down to Austin to this place called the Tree Fort, which is this really magical it's like a tree fort basically above the lakes and the hills outside of Austin.
It just sounds so magical down there anyway, I'm glad that you're bringing your vibe here to us here in the Bing Lounge. Listen, Rhett, I wanted to ask you about one particular song that caught my eye. And there's a lot of great songwriting on this record between you and Murray and these other two guys behind you. Who are they? Why don't you introduce us real quickly here?
On lead guitar over there is, you say it, Ken, you can say it.
My name's Ken, but they.
And he doesn't have a microphone, so I'll speak for him, but behind me on drums is the great Philip Peoples. Yes.
Yeah, because we got to give credit where credit is due to old 97's. All the songwriting is credited to the band, but one song caught my eye, of course, because it was the only one on the record not credited. Well, your name is on there, Rhett Miller, but Dylan is on there, but it's called Champaign, Illinois. And I went, did Dylan ever write a song called Champaign, Illinois?
He didn't have to. I did it for him. Basically, it's the only song that wasn't new from the batch. We took a song from about 10 years ago, or maybe even a little more, back before we were on a bus. And in fact, we were driving ourselves in the van. And it was so long ago that they still let me drive, which is crazy to think about. And it was like 3 a.m. Everybody had gone to sleep, of course. And I'm trying to keep myself awake by writing a song. So in lieu of keeping a guitar in my lap while driving, which would apparently be dangerous, I took a tune with which I was intimately familiar, Bob Dylan's Desolation Row off Highway 61 Revisited, great album. And I took it and wrote new words for it. Not that the old words were bad. In fact, all 10 verses of that song are pretty brilliant. But I just was having fun with it, and I had so much fun. It became like this whole other song that owed something to the Dylan tune, obviously, because the melody was his, but it was a very different thing, which is, I think, when I finally was able to get it to him last year through our great manager, Danny Goldberg, and jumped through hoops, and they, Dylan's management said, well, he turns down 100 of these a day out of hand. But if it's really important, we'll take it to him. And 2 weeks later, I heard back, not only does Dylan like it, but he's signing off on it, and he's giving you half of the publishing, which is, we hadn't even asked for that. So it was a huge, huge compliment from one of my idols.
You mean he takes half of what you make on Champaign, Illinois? Is that the
Well,
way it
yeah,
works?
we were willing to give him 100% because we'd based it on one of his songs, and without
Right.
his permission, we would never have been able to release it at all. So yeah, but he let us keep half, which is very cool.
Wow, that's incredibly generous. And even the fact that he went, yeah, let's do it.
I don't think he needs the money though.
No, you don't think? He's going to be 70. Doesn't he need?
Yeah.
Well, enough of that. I want you to get back to the music, old 97's here in Kink Live at the Bing Lounge. But let's hear that song we were talking about.